grandfathered in by empty seats and things of that nature. But I said, you know, I just know we can win, and people told me that I couldn't. They said, well, there's only 5% black population. I said, well, I'm not looking for no black people. I'm looking for people. I mean, you know, I'll take any vote I get, but I'm looking for people. They said, well, you don't have money. I said, well, I don't have, I can't get a lot of money from the community, but the people at TRW are not poor. These people make good money. So I asked two of my best friends to give me $500. And they did. They said, you gonna run? I said, yeah, and I think I can win. So they wrote me checks immediately. And they said, we think you can too. And so then I had to come up with, you know, what are the real issues? Well, as I saw them, the issues were that people were not really being represented throughout the government. What I mean by that, one of the biggest groups, the golfers, they wanted to put their golf carts on the Victorville on the golf course, and the city wouldn't let them. And I told the golfers, I said, hey, if I'm elected and eventually I'll become mayor, I will bring your golf course on, you know, privately owned golf course carts. And the reason that was so important is the people moved there and they bought their privately owned golf carts to put on the course, and they actually just drive from their house to the course. Mm-hmm. So it was very, very important. So I got a large group of golfers behind me, a large group, and it had nothing to do again with race. And then also in those days we had built a mall, and one of the main arteries there was Bear Valley Road. Well, Bear Valley Road going to the mall was just terrific traffic backup. And I said, hey, I can come up with some schemes of better improving the traffic flow in this area. And so one of the things I did was, you know, concentrate on that. Another thing was police response, making sure that I think in those days we had a 5 or 6 minute response time. I said we should be no less than 4 or 5. And not to say that they weren't doing a good job, I'm just saying that I thought we could improve it. And also I thought that we could improve our law enforcement by making sure that we had an integrated force. And this was very, very important. See, cities like Ferguson, where they had no black representation on the city council, and they have very few police officers. This starts at the city level, and it starts with the city council getting involved in the community and working with the sheriff department. So in those days, our sheriff was Floyd Tidwell. And Sheriff Tidwell was a very conservative guy, and I think we had one black police officer on our force at the time, a guy by the name of Cliff Harris. And I said, hey, Sheriff Tidwell, we need to have more officers on the force because it'll actually bring about better community relations and things of that nature. And he balked at it. And I said, no, Sheriff, we just got to work at this thing, because if we can't improve it, you know, I don't see why the city shouldn't, instead of contracting with the sheriff department, why we don't start our own police department. Sheriff Tidwell heard me, and he said, you know, maybe we can look into that. And he looked into it, and to be honest, he worked with me, and he then brought in a guy by the name of Lieutenant Burris, who worked in the local sheriff's. He was actually in charge. He was working at the jail, and he was a sergeant. So Sheriff Tidwell promoted him to a lieutenant, and he came to Victorville as our second in charge. And then they began to do some things. Again, they were doing okay, but I just thought we could do a better job. So that worked, and things of that nature, improving the traffic, the bus system. And I got elected. I got elected to the city council, and I came in second. It was just unheard of. It was shocked. It shocked everybody but me. And you know, because I knew that we could do it. And again, I didn't just run. I'm a person that believes in faith in God, and I didn't just run out of clearness. And I knew I wasn't by myself. And you know, not to get too religious on it, but God put me there. God put me there, and I knew I could win. It didn't surprise me at all. It didn't surprise my wife. And so we came in second. Everybody was all shook up and didn't know what they were going to do. Here they are, they got this black guy coming in, didn't know anything about me. They obviously did their research and found out that I came back, had pretty good credentials. I'd had a secret clearance all of my life, never been arrested, sterling credentials, educated, knew what I was doing, a manager, top manager at TRW, now Northrop Grumman. And so eventually, after I got into office, things settled down and we all started working together.
Awesome. What, how about the community and the African American community in Victorville? Did that coalesce the community, knowing now that they had an African American on the city council? Did more faces start to come together, or how did that impact?
Well, Victorville is a little different than San Bernardino in that we don't have a Musco area. But Victorville is fairly well integrated, with the exception of where back in the day when blacks had to live across the tracks, what they call across the track, blacks and Hispanics lived across the track. And so there are a couple of housing areas out there that were predominantly black. But basically, because of all the new development, blacks were moving in from all over. And the blacks were coming in from Los Angeles because the housings were not as expensive. They could sell their home in Los Angeles for $500,000 in those days and move to Victorville and buy a home for $100,000, and they had a $400,000 capital gain. Yeah. And these were not poor people.
Right.
So we didn't have a real poor black area. But we did have areas out there that had been there for a long time with blacks in them. And yes, those blacks were very, very supportive of me. And you know, many of the blacks I had met through church, and I walked the precincts. I walked the whole city, and I shook hands with them. And people got to know me, and they started trusting. Then I brought my mom out. My mother, LaDonia Busby, she passed about 5 years ago. But Mom had always been active in politics. Okay. And so, as a matter of fact,
from Texas?
From Texas. She lived in Texas. Okay. As a matter of fact, when I was probably about 3, 4, maybe no older than 5, my mom took me, and this is a very important part of my life. I think it was the beginning of building the character James Busby. She took me with her to vote. And she had to pay a poll tax. In those days, she had to pay 75 cents to vote. Most of the people don't know about the POLL tax. Mm-hmm. And Mom made like $5 a day, so that was like, you know, almost 1/5 of her earnings for a day. But she took me with her to vote. And at the time, remember, let's just say I was 5. She asked the the official if I could come inside of the booth with her so that she could show me what it was like, what the process was. She said, no, we don't let that little nigger in here. Mm-hmm. Say he may vote one day. And lo and behold, that said it for me. I never forgot it. And I said, and I never missed a vote. When I reached the age of 17 or whatever, 18, awesome. I never missed a vote because Mom said, okay, son, you see how they treat you, and that's why you're going to vote. So when you grow up, never fail to vote. I never failed to vote.
Awesome. I don't.
So that's a very, very part of my life.
Awesome.
That I don't even remember the person, their name, but it was a little guy, a little white guy. He just told me I don't want niggas to vote.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, well, I'll always vote.
But he didn't know he was.
He didn't know what he was doing. He was creating a monster.
I love it. So your mom came to Victorville.
She came to Victorville and went. See, Mom is just a folksy person. Yeah. She's the type of person that she goes to the airport, and when she's gonna meet everybody in the airport. She's gonna know everybody on the plane. She's gonna talk to them about Jesus Christ, and she's gonna tell them about her son. She's just very proud of me and the family. So Mom came out, and that were a couple of people that were a little skeptical of me, that, you know, he's just gonna run, and he's gonna be one of these fancy guys, and he's not gonna do anything good again. I brought Mom out, they said, we love you. They loved my mom before they did me. And they really fell in love with Mom, because she's just there. And like one day I said, Mom, I'm gonna take you, she liked going to the hometown buffet.
Yes.
I said, Mom, I'm gonna take you to this fancy restaurant, nice restaurant that I want to take you to, called Chateau Chain. She said, son, I want to be where people are. I don't want a fancy restaurant.
Wow.
And she said, if you can't eat with the people that you're serving, you don't need to be there. So I said, okay, Bob, I'm going to the hometown buffet. She said, if every person can't afford it, then you shouldn't be there.
Oh.
So she was that kind of a person, just very basic person. Same thing with my wife. She's just she was educated at Alabama A&M and straight A's all the way from elementary school to college. Just a scholar, one of the smartest people I ever met. And so they always kept me grounded. They always made sure that I was in church working with the young people. And eventually, one of the things I did is I became superintendent of our Sunday school at Emmanuel Temple CME Church in Victorville. So my whole background is just that of a basic guy that grew up loving people and doing the things that I could do.
Yeah. With a servant mentality, obviously. You didn't come for a title.
No.
You came, you assessed the needs in the community, and you had the confidence to say, I can solve that problem. We can work on that, and we can make things better. What are the accomplishments that you treasure during your time as an elected official?
One of the things that I did was the city there was a project that was being built, some condominiums in Victorville off of Stoddardwell Road. It was a complex of about let's say 300 or 400 condominiums, very nice, large, 2 and 3 bedroom condominiums, and the builder defaulted and could not complete the project. It sat idle for several years, and when I became mayor, one of the first things I did was work with the city council and convince the city to buy that particular area, to invest in it, so that we could create low and moderate income housing. I don't think anybody remembers that, but there are just, hundreds of people living there now, and not even aware of the fact that during those days it was Jim Busby and the city council that made those apartments available.
Wow.
So that was one of the things. Another thing, there was an area in that same general area where blacks had to live at one time. They didn't have bus service over there.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I did was make sure that our transit system went to that area.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did that. Right after I got elected mayor, and let me back up a little bit. When I ran, I came in second behind a guy by the name of Jeff Goodwill. Jeff Goodwill and I were opponents. We didn't know one another, but once we both got elected, we realized that we had like values. Now, he was someone that the establishment had championed. He was their guy, and he was going to be the guy to be the mayor forever. Well, Jeff and I got to be very good friends.
Wow.
So we started working together, and he knew where all the bones were buried. He knew the weak areas, the low areas, and so we made an agreement to work and to promote one another, and we did. Unfortunately, as a matter of fact, Jeff and I and our wives would go to events together, but unfortunately, probably about 6 or 7 months after Jeff, less than a year after we got elected, he and his wife were killed in an automobile accident. So then I became the mayor. I was the vice mayor.
Wow.
So, and by the way, there were people when I became vice mayor, second vote getter, they didn't want me to become the vice mayor. And these are not the people, by the way, not the people in the community. These are political figures.
Wow.
The people that, when we talk about race, the people, the problem is not with the people in general. It's the political parties that have something to gain.
Wow.
And so, eventually, the council voted me in as mayor. I even spoke at the late Jeff Goodwill's funeral. And as mayor, then I started leading the agenda. And one of the things I wanted to do was work on race relationship. And people got along and things were moving in a positive way, but they weren't people didn't seem to talk in terms of race the way that I felt we should be working together.
Right.
In other words, you got a white Masonic lodge up there, you got a black Masonic lodge. It's still that way, but I'm saying that should be sometimes when people get together. And so my wife and I actually came up with the concept. Where does, in terms of working together, where do most people go on Sunday? And we said everybody goes to church.